2NURFM.com, a broadcast service of the University of Newcastle.
Being a Tuesday morning, we like to check out the environment and us, and we do that as we're joined from the University of Newcastle by the Director of the Tom Farrell Institute for the Environment, Professor Tim Roberts. Good morning. Today we're looking at the sea level. Is it rising?
It is rising, that's for sure. In fact, very, very important topic, because as more and more carbon dioxide goes up into the air, and the methane of course, it becomes a little blanket over the earth, so the sun's rays get through it, but they don't get out again, and so we heat up, and as we heat up, so we dissolve. We melt a whole lot of ice around the place, and that has to go somewhere, and it goes as liquid. And so sea levels have hardly changed for the 1900 years up to 1900, say, but then in the 20th century they started to climb a few millimetres a year, and a millimetre isn't very much, of course, but if 10 millimetres makes a centimetre and 100 millimetres makes a metre, doesn't it?
What do we attribute these sea level rises to?
Doesn't make a metre, but what it's attributed to is the temperature of the earth is rising, and as it rises, so the oceans expand, because liquids expand as temperature rises, but of course there's a much greater increase in volume of the water in the oceans when the ice caps melt.
So the polar ice caps, they're melting due to this increase in temperature?
Absolutely. Glaciers are melting, so if you went to visit a glacier 20, 30 years ago when you were a young fellow, that glacier would have been much, much closer further down the valley than it is now. If you go to visit it, you'll find that the leading edge of it has actually moved up and up and up. So this rise of several millimetres a year since 1900 is really going to have an effect. And so what we see is either we're going to have to mitigate this climate change, and that's difficult. Mitigation means reducing the amount of greenhouse gases going up, or we'll have to adapt to it. And how can you adapt to it? Move back from the sea, or build a wall to hold the sea out, and so on. And in fact, while I was thinking about this, I remembered that there's a Monty Python movie called Eric the Viking, and if you like to look up something on this, look up High Brazil section of this Eric the Viking movie. Now High is H-Y, Brazil is B-R-A-S-I-L. It was a mythical land somewhere near Scotland, I think. Anyway, it features in this movie where the king and all of his people say the sea level isn't rising, or High Brazil isn't sinking, but in fact in the movie it sinks. And it's rather funny, but it's also brilliant satire.
Is there a website or something we can look at which helps to monitor what the sea levels are and if they are rising?
Absolutely. There's a really, really good sea level map. It's called Tides and Currents, NOAA.gov, and sea level trends. And there you can see the whole world. If somebody likes to send me an email, I can tell them that particular website. It's fantastic. You can home in on Australia. I wonder if you should say home in or hone in. I think I'll say hone in. You can hone in on Australia or wherever else you're interested and see what's happening.
And also you've got another website we can check out too for the Stevens and Kayam paper.
Well, that's it. Some researchers here at the University of Newcastle have actually recently published a paper on predictions of sea level rise, particularly based in Lake Macquarie. And so if you want to read about that, I've got the website for that as well. Very interesting research paper.
Now, what about next week, some homework for us? What would you like to talk about next Tuesday morning?
Okay. I'd like to talk about something that we're doing in the Tom Farrell Institute with our Gary Allen, and that is driverless cars.
Okay.
Automatic cars that will drive themselves, so you can just jump in them and they'll take you to where you want to go.
The future is also almost now, isn't it? Yeah.
Absolutely.
So driverless cars, that's what we'll be looking at next week. Now, if we want to get an email through to you, Professor Tim, how can we do that?
tim.roberts@newcastle.edu.au.
That's the address, tim.roberts@newcastle.edu.au, if you'd like to get an email correspondence through to Professor Tim Roberts. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thanks, Dave.
We'll look
Bye.
forward to your company again as we take a look at the environment and us. We'll do that next Tuesday morning at 11:15. The director of the Tom Farrell Institute for the Environment, Professor Tim Roberts at 2 and URFM 103.7.